So Chad, thank you for joining us. You're a client of Consero, been a client for a number of years through multiple companies. Can you tell us a little bit more about findhelp and how you service the community?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Bridget. Our mission is it's quite simply, it's to connect people in need with the programs that serve them with dignity and ease. And that mission, it was born out of a very personal event that happened for our founder. Our founder became the legal guardian of his mom for a variety of reasons. And what he found was it was very difficult to navigate the system, the safety net, and what programs are available, be it free or partially paid programs that are there. There's plenty there, but it's very difficult to navigate. Anybody that's been a part of that has seen how challenging it can be. And he, was an engineer by trade. He knew that I can fix this. And so he did. He wrote code that was very similar to like an Indeed zip code search, where you go in, you type in your zip code, and it will pull up all the community-based organizations that offer help in your zip code. We're in every zip code in the US, but it's everything from housing to a food pantry to drug addiction assistance, suicide prevention, healthcare, anything that somebody could need help with that they have a trouble getting to, it's on that network. And the interesting thing about what the founder built was he initially thought he would build a case management tool for these community-based organizations. But what he found was one thing very important: they have no money. And so it was very difficult to sell software to people that don't have money. But a lot of times you end up at a better idea. Sometimes that was not your initial idea. And what happened was this network, what that allowed him to do was we have about 600,000 community-based organizations on the network today. And as he was building that, trying to sell that case management tool, what he found was there were a lot of health plans and hospital systems that were hitting the network, thousands of users at a time. And he wasn't really sure why. So he reached out to them, and they told him it's the best network that's available. Today, our social workers, they use Post-it notes, they use Excel spreadsheets. We have no idea who they've helped, what they've helped them with. And if they leave, they take it with them. And so the light bulb kind of went off for Aaron as to, wait a minute, we could white label this to these, be it payers or providers. They could then see an integration with the employee health record. They could get reporting and analytics, and they could close the loop, meaning somebody comes in and needs help. They can get to a community-based organization. They can refer them to that organization. The organization receives the patient, they help them, and then they close the loop back and let the plan know, or hospital system, hey, we helped this person, and this is what happened. And so it worked out really good. And because what that allowed Aaron to do was to still continue with the mission to help people. You still are able to provide that service to an individual like you or I, any of us on the call. We call it a seeker, for free. The community-based organization that still is using the network can use the system for free. But these payers and providers, they are the ones that can actually pay for the software, and they're the ones driving service and value. And the beauty of what he built was, it's not just healthcare. It's anyone that provides social services to individuals. So if you think about national nonprofits like Easter Seals, American Heart Association, or schools, public and private K through 12 schools in a city, or public and private universities, state and local governments, being health and human services, corrections, veterans, child welfare, and then of course healthcare. But then one that's pretty interesting of late has been large employers, so self-funded, self-insured employers. Think about somebody that wants to be able to provide a service to their employees. It's a little embarrassing for an employee to go in and say, hey, I need help with housing, or I need help with a food pantry. They can provide this network as a resource for that employee. And it not only helps the employee, but it allows an employer to design a plan that better serves the needs of their customers. And so it's kind of, the founder's dream for all along was to do this in a way that is not going to be a not-for-profit, but also show that as a viable business, we can do this in a much more efficient manner than the way it's being done today. So I will pause.
That is a really cool story and journey from your founder, and how you've been able to be a part of that. Consero, we acquired a company called BTQ Financial, and they provide finance as a service for nonprofit organizations. So your story sounds so much like many of the nonprofits that we actually service with BTQ. So fascinating. So you've kind of had a journey of your own with Consero. How did you discover Consero, and what drew you to consider a partnership with them, or with us?
So I was fortunate enough to, back in mid 2000s, I guess it was, to work for a software company in Austin that very early stage Consero, when you guys were just kind of getting off the ground with the founders, and I was able to work. They were helping us from an accounting perspective. We outsourced some accounting and some FP&A work to them, and we worked with those guys early on. That was very early stage. That company, we changed and we grew quite rapidly, and we actually brought some stuff in-house. And, from that point forward, I'd always kind of thought, if I ever get another chance, I'm not going to bring accounting in-house. Accounting is no fun, and it's not something I really enjoy doing a lot. In fact, I'm not very good at it, to be honest, but it's a bit of a beat down. And I'd rather focus on things that are much more strategic and operational for the business. And so, the Find Help, I've been there for 2 years now. That was one of the first things we started is, we were already outsourcing accounting with a local firm out of Colorado. But I knew as we grew, and we've been growing substantially over time, that we wanted to bring somebody on like Consero. And we were fortunate in that you guys, where you were mid-2000s to where we used you then to where you are today, it's a mere shell of what it was in the past. There's so many more services available, and it's been a great, I'm probably going a lot farther ahead than you wanted, but it's been a really good process for us to this date.
Wonderful. What would you say, what are the major challenges that Consero's finance as a service model has solved for you?
Two things. One, it allows us to truly focus on the strategic operational aspects of the business. And I don't have to worry about purchasing accounting software, purchasing any kind of anything from a reporting perspective. I can let you guys buy that, and it's up and running. From an implementation perspective, we were able to get up and running with Consero. I want to say it was like 60 to 90 days, really quick time frame. We transitioned everything over. It's now in the system. That's the beauty of what it allows us to do is I don't have to manage accounting system. I don't have to worry about purchasing and integrating and all the things. I can click on a link and I have a report, and it tells me where our financials are. I can have a dashboard that says, cash, receivables, everything that's just from a financial perspective is important, but other pieces too that I want to see.
Wonderful. So you are an investor-backed CFO, and that brings all kinds of challenges in its own right. How does a successful investor-backed CFO stand out among other portfolio companies in terms of working with your operating partner, for example?
Yeah, I would say one of the things I've always liked to do is make the reporting as simple as possible and try to get to a little bit more of a narrative report as opposed to just pure numbers. There's a lot of people that want to see metrics and they want to see data. That's fine. We'll give them that. But I always want to try to create a summary view that's, anywhere from 3 to 4 pages that is maybe a high level dashboard, but then has a real narrative of what are the important things that happened so you can paint the color around you're not just giving somebody numbers, you're giving them the color and the description around what happened from a bookings perspective, what happened with revenue, why are we over or under, and what do we think about the full year? And you can provide these people this data. And then when you get the calls and you get on meetings with them, it's a much more interactive discussion as opposed to, because I've already pointed them to, hey, these are the things I want you to think about. These are the things that I need help with and how you can help me. So I kind of drive them to help me, yes, you gave me money, but I want to be a good steward of that money and I want your help. You guys are very good at this. Help us get there. And it creates that teamwork approach that I think is much more efficient than just constantly doing a financial data dump of a report and sending it off to somebody and letting them decide what questions they want to ask.
That's really helpful to a lot of finance executives and CFOs in the audience who may be early stage, seed, and even venture backed, and going to be taking that next step to private equity. So thank you for that. Yeah. That information there. So tell us about, we've all experienced this economic downturn and, making it through COVID. And, ironically, that's really the time when Find Help has experienced rapid growth. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that growth. Did your investors have an M&A playbook? Was it organic? Take us through that journey.
Yeah, sure. So we are slightly counter-cyclical as a business, and that as COVID kind of hit at the right time for us. I don't want to say that was a great thing, but it basically, anything that causes or creates a little bit of uncertainty and allows people to identify, yes, I need help, and we're there, and we were kind of ready at the right time. We haven't done hardly any M&A. All of our growth has been organic to date, and it's largely just been through new customers and expanding, kind of a land and expand methodology with those existing customers. But we have seen a real big spike in usage growth as well. It took us about 10 years to get to 1 million users on the platform. And right now we add 1 million users every 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
And so we're well north of 30 million, approaching 40 million users on the system, which, is a little staggering sometimes when you think about that. These are users of people that need help, and you've helped, 30 to 40, million people out there kind of get across the line, which, not to go way off topic, but as a finance guy, there aren't a lot of times that I get to work for a software company that truly drives and makes people's lives better. And that is one of the more rewarding things about findhelp.
Yeah, fulfilling the mission of findhelp is very rewarding in its own. Much different than maybe working for a software company that is selling a product. So it's a really great place that you've landed and that you've been able to professionally grow in. With that growth, how has it leveraging a third-party partner helped?
Very much so. It allows us, as I mentioned earlier, it's, accounting, closing the books, doing all that, it's a necessary evil. You have to do those things. And if I can do that in a much more efficient manner, where you guys, we outsource that to you guys. I have a schedule that every month, this is the day it's going to be done by. They come prepared to the meetings. You have all the variances ready to go. I can ask questions. I can see the data real time, and I can dig into it, and there's always the data that's there. It's incredibly helpful in that regard, and that then we can spend the time reporting out internally, and we can help people and teams understand how they're impacting our financials, and not necessarily just giving them, hey, you're over plan or you're under plan, but help them understand how they truly drive like a measure like Rule of 40, or maybe our net burn or revenue per head count. So help them understand what those true key metrics that drive our business, as opposed to just, hey, you were over on compensation. Why is that? You know what I mean? We get to a much more deeper view of what we're trying to drive, so that people can then make more educated decisions. Teams, a lot of times people shy away from sharing financials sometimes at detail level with individual or teams or whatnot. But I found that the more you give people, the better their decisions they're going to make. And once they understand what we're trying to drive on that KPI, they'll have that in the background as they make those decisions. And it's, if I'm spending 10 days, 10 days of the month worried about close and accounting, that doesn't leave a whole lot of time for me to do other things in the month to help these people understand. And so by taking it off the plate and using an outsourced resource like you guys, those first 10 days, I'm still working on strategic things. I mean, I'm not worried about it. My team's not worried. My FP&A team, I do have and one thing I found that works really well is if we have an accounting resource on staff though here, that is that connection to the individual team that's based in India, as well as the local person in the US, that works fantastic, because now you have somebody that they can bounce questions off immediately. We can ask them questions, and it just keeps that flow going so much better.
Wonderful. I was reading a CFO survey. In fact, Consero will be conducting a survey of 100 PE-backed CFOs. It's something that we're working on now, and we'll have published here in the next month or two. But I was reading another CFO survey that came out, and it noted that labor and staffing was among the top challenges in the office of the CFO. Can you describe how Consero's finance as a service model has offered time savings as it relates to hiring, managing, the finance and accounting staff? Now, we realize you've got some finance and accounting staff, and that's important to have, and to have that relationship with Consero. How can leveraging finance as a service help you with time management there?
So, yeah, I will say it is, it's crucial to where we are and how we're scaling. And the in-house kind of finance, FP&A accounting team, if you will, keep in mind, we've been growing north of 50% a year for the last 4 to 5 years. And we have a team, not counting myself, a team of 2 based in Austin that handle our finance and as our connection to accounting. And so by not having to staff that accounting team up and to be able to rely on you guys, we can hire the right people in those roles and we can let them flourish and not have to take on multiple hats. They can really just focus. My FP&A individual can truly focus on finance, FP&A and modeling and forecasting. And we'll grow over time a little bit more, but we're not going to have to add enormous resources to continue to scale to where we want to go. It has allowed us to take that burden of hiring in-house staff off the plate, and we don't have to worry about it. And I will say I've been incredibly pleased with the amount of consistency of the team from Consero, and that we haven't seen a big turnover of those resources, because sometimes when you outsource, you see things turn over a lot and you end up dealing with different people every other month. We've not seen that, and that has been fantastic to build the relationship that we have with that outsourced team, because we grow with them and they grow with us.
Wonderful. And 50% growth year over year. And when I hear that, I just think of how many people I don't even think of the numbers, but the people, how many more people you've helped every year over year.
Yeah, it's exciting. And, not to get into a TAM discussion with folks, but we've got, just from the simple product that we have today, there's an opportunity of about $5 billion that's out there. If you think about the various verticals I described earlier and how that works, and you start thinking about, I don't have to have all that 5 billion to make a viable business and make this work. We can do for just quite well with a little bit of that. And that's what's exciting, is the opportunity to truly do that and to leave do something, like I mentioned earlier, that's going to change the way the safety net's provided today. And it's really exciting. And I will say, I know this we're not trying to sell our business, but we're on a path to profitability, which is really cool too, right? We're not just a true startup that's bringing in dollars and dollars and dollars and just burning and burning. We're continuing to grow that top line, but also with a view to profitability, which Consero has allowed us to truly focus on and not have to, dig into the weeds of some of that data all the time.
I was just going to touch on that. In fact, I don't know if you've been part of the Association for Corporate Growth, ACG, but they produced a middle market growth report for 2024, and it was published recently. We may include that, in fact, in the follow-up for this recorded video, but I just wrote a couple things down here. PE firms are holding companies longer and taking a hands-on approach to operations, which has led to overall improvement of companies that will soon be coming to market. Yeah. And the 2024 outlook is that not only is deal flow expected to pick up in 2024, but the quality of companies brought to market as well, which is really kind of what you're touching on. My question is about due diligence here. As it relates to due diligence, how does maintaining clean books factor into this whole process?
It's incredibly beneficial, right? If somebody gives me a list of things they'd like to see about the business, an investor, be it VC or PE, or even a potential acquirer, if they give me a list, if I can turn that list back, in a couple days, and it's very clean data, and I can give them links to things to, hey, here's the reports, here's what you go see, that takes so much indecision off the table, and then the discussion becomes much more about the true, synergies that can be found, and how can you help, and what are the things that we need to invest in, and where do we need opportunity? Where are those opportunities? So that if I can give people that comfort of, hey, the numbers that you see are the numbers that they are, and we have the audits. You guys help tremendously with our audit. You help with the financial reports on a monthly, quarterly basis. That takes so much I don't know, indecision is the wrong word, but just ambiguity off the table, and it suddenly it gives us a lot more stronger leg to stand on, as well as, hey, there's a lot of confidence that gives an outsider looking in. And it's one of the things I love most, or appreciate most, about the work we do with you guys.
Yeah, the more questions that can't be answered quickly and the more time that goes into the deal, as they say, time kills deals, then it starts putting things out of balance for you as the exiting company. What advice would you have for executives looking to maximize their collaboration with investors and add the most value to the relationship?
Yeah, so I touched on the report that I like to use, that we used earlier. I would also we also do a narrative with our board, every board meeting, and
Smart.
we provide very just a summary view of, hey, here's everything that's going on, and here are the risk areas, and we're very transparent, open, and honest about this. These are the risk areas. These are where I need help, and hopefully leaning into their resources and their toolbox, their kit that they have to go help. And that's one of the things that we found that is I appreciate so much with our board is they're incredibly helpful. We have a great cap table. They have investors that are willing to help, and they provide those resources. You touched on it a little bit. There's two ways you can get them to help. You can get them to help proactively, or you can get them to help reactively. And the reactive, when they're helping reactively, that's never a good spot because there's an issue, there's problems. They found the last thing I ever want is for investors or my board to find something and to say, hey, and start questioning an issue. If there's an issue, I want to bring it up and I want to be the one controlling the conversation. I want to be able to help direct that. I don't want to be playing defense in that situation. No one wins, or I don't win. I say that's a quick way for me to be looking for a new job. And so I would say that's probably just that open, frank discussion and narrative that we provide before a meeting. And what it allows us to do from a board perspective is those board meetings, we don't just go through a deck of slides. Yes, we give them a deck and we provide them, but we do a lot more conversation because we've already provided the narrative that goes with the slides. So now, it's not a show and tell situation. It's hey, let's truly talk, and it's a conversation. And that's so much more useful than anybody can walk through a slide deck and everybody can read. So I'm not going to help them read.
Great introspect. Thank you. Well, I think we're going to tie it up here, Allison, and put a red bow on it. Allison, if you want to come back, we've got some Q&A, and let's see what questions we have from the audience. Y'all continue to put your questions in the chat, and we will answer them for you.
Thank you. Yes, one came in. Chad would love to know how big your finance and accounting team was when you started, approximate revenue, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah. So we, let's see, when we were, I'll say this, we were sub 20 million when I joined, and we had one FP&A person, one accounting person, and we had outsourced the actual accounting to a group in Colorado. And since then, we're now, we will, at the end of this year, we'll have more than doubled that number. And my in-house accounting team is the same. I've upgraded the team, if you will, to a little better talent level, but at the same time, I still have one FP&A person and one in-house accountant that works with the Consero folks. And I wouldn't envision that growing and for probably another year to adding. We'll probably add on the FP&A side. Is the beauty is I want to be able to add in the strategic side of the house as opposed to just day-to-day accounting. And Consero can grow with me, which that takes that off the table.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then one other question. It was when you mentioned the narrative. Are you saying that you're writing out a long form note or memo, or do you have a presentation deck that you use? And also, who do you have working on that or drafting it? Was the question.
So, yeah, that's a great question. We think of it as more of a traditional analyst report. If I can get it to 1 to 2 pages of a narrative, that's great. And it's basically, it's got a little dashboard section at the top that are kind of key metrics that I want people to see. And then the narrative are just the high level pieces. It's how did we do from a sales perspective, revenue, our expenses, a little bit of a cash flow projection or cash flow, where are we on that? And then a current quarter and full year forecast view from a narrative perspective. So it's very targeted and very quick. And right now, it's a little bit of a combination. I write the narrative today, and the FP&A individual, he does a lot of the database or data information that goes with it. So it's in time, he'll pick up the narrative and we'll go from there. But right now, it's still me.
Right. And then one other question, was there any risk to outsourcing your finance work given HIPAA and compliance is required in the healthcare space?
No, we no, we had no risks at all. None of our true customer data is Consero deals with any of that stuff from those perspectives, any of the records or information that we have in our hosting or secure sites. But from an accounting perspective, there were no issues at all from a payroll. We still process payroll the same way we use Zenefits, and it integrates real nicely with Consero.
Great.
Cool.
believe-
Well, we thank you, Allison, for everything. Y'all enjoy your Grubhub. And thank you for joining us. We try to host one of these at least once a quarter to give our clients a chance to talk with you all a little bit about their experience. So we thank y'all for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks.